Hello, and welcome to Toolbox for the Trades. My name is Amanda Salvatore, and today I speak with Mark Stevens, COO of Stevens Landscaping Professionals in New Hampshire. In this episode, Mark and I will dive into the balance between technology and personalized customer service, exploring the specific tools and processes that have helped his company thrive. With grit, determination, and an eye for data, what started out as a high school project has turned into a company that generated 22 million last year. A true success story. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Mark Stevens, you are the COO of Stevens Landscaping Professionals, and today we're talking technology and tools that keep your business cutting edge while keeping things personal. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Super excited to be on this show and share some of my industry knowledge and kind of how we got from where we started to where we are today.
It's a really great story. For any listeners who are unfamiliar with the origin story of Stevens Landscaping Professionals, you're in for a real treat. It's a very cool story. But first and foremost, we're going to start with our icebreaker. You're in New Hampshire, so I figured, and this episode comes out in October, so I figured why not dive into fall? What's your favorite thing about fall and why?
Probably just the crisp, cool mornings, the fall foliage, the ever-changing kind of landscape in New England. Business-wise, we have two big pushes. It's our spring push and our fall push. So we're kind of, as I call, we're headed into playoff season. So it's kind of a sense of energy in the team. They know we're at the final push to kind of, make the biggest changes we can on our clients' properties, before we come into the winter season. So it's an exciting time here for sure.
Oh, I bet. As an East Coast girly who now lives in California, I miss that fall season for sure, and you're in a great spot for it, so I hope you
Yeah.
enjoy. So let's get into it. How did you find yourself in the industry?
My chore growing up was mowing the lawn at my parents' house. It wasn't, just a push mower or something like that. We had a commercial mower luckily at the house. So that was kind of my chore. My hobby was actually motocross. We had a neighbor that lived next to us that had a big open field. And I asked him one day, can we build a little jump in your field, to practice motocross and stuff? My dad had a tractor. Fast forward, we built an entire motocross track, full bore track, a mile long. I think at that point, I just realized I really loved the outdoors, loved working with equipment, loved working with my hands. And that's kind of was what initiated, the first thing in 2007. My brother then went off and started a mock business as a senior project in high school. And that's really when the business kind of started in 2007. That mock business really turned into more of a legit business in the summer that he graduated, that we had started Stevens Landscaping. So started off just mowing some lawns and, yeah.
That's wild to me. I love this story because it starts off as this high school project. It starts off as your chores
Yeah.
and you start mowing these lawns. And now last year you had 22 million in revenue. You have grown this business exponentially. So I'm really excited to find out how you guys got here. Before we get into the nitty gritty, could you please explain what Stevens Landscaping Professionals specialize in? And your unique market, because you have this different clientele, you have these different services. And I think it's important for the listeners to understand what you do and who you work with for the rest of the conversation to really land with them.
So we're in a very unique market. It's dead center of New Hampshire. We call it the Lake Region of New Hampshire. Many lakes around the area, Lake Winnipesaukee, Squam Lake. Really, our goal is to be that, trusted partner for their second, third, fourth, or primary home, right? And we offer, right from design services to our build services to our enjoy services. And really our purpose at the end of the day is enhancing lifestyles. Whether we're enhancing clients' lifestyles, we're enhancing employees' lifestyles. We want to be that single point of contact and that partner for our clients that they don't have to go anywhere else, to get any sort of service on their property. So we've really, kind of built a niche where we can be that single service provider all the way from designing your landscape to installing your landscape, all the way through maintaining, the landscape and maintaining, the home itself as well.
Yeah, I recommend anyone who's listening to check out the website to really get a grasp on what work you guys are doing. It's gorgeous. It's incredible work. So
Yeah,
I
thank you.
was
It's just, yeah, it's such a unique place. It's every site has its own challenges and stuff like that. And we'll get into that as as we get into more of the podcast here. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So today we're talking about the balance between technology and also creating a personalized customer experience, right? You have this unique market. Let's dive into technology first. How has using data transformed the way you make decisions for the company? And are there any specific examples of when you used the data to help solve a problem, or better yet, even find a new opportunity?
99% of our decisions are definitely based on data. I think the one that stands out to me the most was job costing around our recurring revenue. So the majority of our kind of landscape maintenance model. Before Spire, we really didn't have great insight. We knew as a division that we were, profitable. We didn't know on, which property we were making money on, which property we weren't making money. And so after we had a couple of years of data within Aspire, we had done a complete audit of our entire recurring revenue business. And it was eye-opening. There was places that, did contracts that we thought we were making money on that we weren't making money on. There was a lot of holes in areas of estimating production. And so it was about a 2-year project in total, but we had gone through every single one of our recurring revenue contracts, audited it, and made adjustments and did it in a step process. So it didn't happen over 1 year. We did it, over the course of 2 years. We also had revamped, how we do estimating. Again, Lake Winnipesaukee has its unique challenges. These aren't postage stamp lots at the end of the day. Like each property is unique in its own. So estimating is definitely a challenge. There's not very black and white production rates at the end of the day. If we're going to offer a new service, right, we use data. We go out to our customers, we figure out what they need, what their pain points are, how many different vendors are they managing to manage their property at the end of the day. Really, the goal is we want to be that single point of contact.
When you get to look at this data, you're really taking a holistic approach to your business and taking a deep dive into what is working and what's not, and being able to trim that fat. In those 2 years, what would be your advice to somebody who's thinking, okay, I have this data within Aspire and I want to utilize it to my advantage? What would be your advice to somebody who wants to take that project on, but feels like maybe it's going to take too much time and they're a little nervous about implementing that sort of change?
There's a lot of noise, in business, right? You can chase all these great ideas that you see or hear about. And I think staying laser focused on what your objectives are, we have quarterly planning sessions. We have annual goals that we're trying to, accomplish. And we make sure that whatever we're doing is supporting those goals and getting us to, that 1 year target of where we want to be. Don't be scared. Just, try it, truth up your data, look at it at different ways, but don't be scared of it. At the end of the day, once you get to a certain size, I think you have to be very cautious of going with your gut for decisions. And I think you really need to trust the data, right? The data is, at the end of the day, as long as you're putting good data into the software, you're getting good data out of the software, and you need to trust that data. It can be overwhelming. It's a lot to sift through. There is a lot of noise sometimes in data. It can tell a story for sure. It can tell a story.
Within Aspire, is there any other technology that you leverage?
So we use everything within Aspire. The only thing we've dragged away from just a little bit is the equipment module, because we were looking for something that offered a little bit more for our fleet as we've grown to, a little over 100 trucks and probably another, 50 large assets, excavators, skid steers, and stuff like that. But we really do use everything from the client portal all the way down to, Crew Mobile and everything in between there. And I think it's important, we've been on other softwares before. We've used portions of it, but didn't use it in its, entirety. And we always lacked data back then because, again, we didn't track things. So I think if you're going to do it, really just like put your head down, make it a priority. It takes time. It takes time. But in the long run, I couldn't imagine running, a company like this without some sort of software. And Aspire has been a great partner on that with us.
Beyond using Aspire, I know that you're using some really cool technology, especially with with landscaping. So I'd love to dive into that. What have you been using that has helped with your overall operations?
We have a great accounting software. We have a fleet management software, an HRIS software, and a design software. And a lot of those do communicate to each other through APIs and whatnot. And really, that's kind of our software backbone or operations that we have, that we use within the company. When it comes to equipment, technology, innovation out in the field, let's start with, NCON. So go back probably 5, 6 years. We had a pretty technical job on the lake, clef access, tight lot. And that's when tilt rotators and NCON were kind of just starting to hit the market in the US. They've been widely used overseas for many years. If people are not familiar with an NCON, it's basically a tilt rotator that can go on the end of an excavator that allows you to just really do a tremendous amount of more work in production, a lot safer, efficient. It also has helped kind of bring new talent in, right? People want to work for a company that is investing in technology, investing in the latest and greatest things. I always have this funny story. I have a really good friend, high school friend that still works for us. He was the best person I knew of video games at a young age. And he is likely now one of our best operators in the field. Just that hand-eye coordination. And there's so much going on. There's so many things you can do inside that excavator from the seat of the excavator without getting out. So the NCON's definitely something big in the field that we've invested in. It's pretty much a non-negotiable on any excavator that we buy nowadays has an NCON on it. And the amount of work that we can do, the capabilities of it, and the fact that we're really reducing risk, when it comes to safety. And that's a big priority here at Stevens Landscaping, is making sure that, all of our employees can get home safe to their families at the end of the day.
I love that. I love that. I also want to go back to what you said before about getting employees excited through technology. Bringing technology into your business is going to be bringing also new talent who has this unique perspective, right? And I love that that is a selling point to come work for you guys.
Yeah, it's really, especially in New England, I feel like unfortunately it is a little bit further behind in technology and innovation for the most part. So like, we have these great operators around, but they're just stuck doing the same old type of work or the same old equipment. And, once they see our videos on Instagram or our social media, they're like, wow, that's somewhere I want to work, right? I want to be part of that team that is leading the industry.
Love to hear about the GPS you're using for landscaping. Let's get into that.
Yeah, yeah. So we use Trimble. We've been using Trimble for probably about 4 years now. Trimble is a GPS layout tool. Our designers, we have design in-house. So we do all our design in-house, which allows us then to transfer that design over to Trimble, which is our GPS software, and then allows our teams on site to be able to go out and do their own layout, see where patio is going to be, see where the elevation of the patio is going to be, see where the stairs are going to be, trees, you name it, we can lay it out with GPS. It hasn't just helped the crews, in the field staff. It's also helped efficiencies and production. And we're not building a patio 10 extra square feet than what we had proposed, right? Because we're laying it out exactly per design. And that's key up here in the Lakes region as well, because we do have a lot of permitting requirements that we have to, stringent requirements around Lake Winnipesaukee or other lakes that we have to follow, right? So our team is not second guessing. They're not calling a project manager all day long asking, where is this patio exactly end, or where do these, walkways go, or all of those types of things, right? They literally have it right on the screen, on the tablet, can walk around the site and lay it out perfectly. We did just invest this year for the first time, and we put GPS inside our excavators as well now. So we have 2 excavators that we're working with right now, where we can basically, everything that those crews were able to see on site before on that tablet, they can now see inside the excavator, and they can also see their bucket on that same screen. So if they're, digging to prep a patio or something, we're not over digging. We don't have to over excavate. They don't have to get out of the machine and pull tape measures of pound stakes in the ground, right? They literally can do all that from, the cab of the machine. We've had that for about a year now, and that will probably follow the same trend as NCON, which will be all of our new excavators will be outfitted with that from the get-go.
I'm sure that that's helped with time management, with how you are utilizing your time, how you're spending your money, and just getting the job done sooner. And you have these huge jobs, so I'm sure that's saving you
Yes,
so much money and time.
absolutely. Yeah. And these jobs are complex, right? I mean, there's jobs that have 50, 60 feet of grade change with retaining walls, and everything has to line up perfectly. We're on a really complex job now that we've been on for a little over a year, that has thousands of feet of retaining wall and, steps in between, and every inch matters as far as grade and stuff like that. So it's been a huge help. The staff out in the field love it. And, every time we introduce someone to it, they're like, wow, didn't know this technology was out there. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's very cool. Speaking of efficiency, can you tell our listeners about these custom construction trucks that
Yeah,
you have built? What makes them
absolutely.
special and really what inspired your need for them?
Yeah, so we again, we're always trying to make things better here at Stevens Landscaping. And we had gotten feedback from our field team that just like predominantly we do, large landscape jobs that we're on for, anywhere from 3 months to 2 years, right? And so we can kind of set up shop there. But, there's always delays here or there that we need to jump out and do another job there, another job here, a small enhancement or something like that. Constantly, our crews were showing up to jobs without the correct tools, having to run around, chase things. And so we kind of took a step back last winter after having that conversation with our crews and said, hey, what do you guys think about this idea? So I had pioneered this idea that, we're going to build these, new construction trucks. There's been some out in the industry similar, but not anything specifically like this. And so basically what we did is we, got the new Mac MD6s, outfitted them with a box behind the cab. So we have an 8x8 box behind the cab that stores every single tool that they would possibly need, so that if they're jumping from job to job, everything is on board at all times. So there's no loading up tools in the morning. There's no unloading trucks in the afternoon. There's no putting tools, again, we're seasonal. So there's no putting tools away at the end of the season. Everything's undercover. Everything's locked up. And then behind that, there's a dump body so that we can take material with us. So we've leaded almost all 8 of those to start. We kind of went with the first batch of 8 to convert 8 of our crews over. And the feedback, just talking to someone this morning, actually, how you liking your new truck? And the feedback has been awesome, right? They jumped to a small job and they have every single tool they would need in that truck ready to go. They're loving it, right? It's definitely making their day-to-day job a lot easier as well.
I think that is also an indicator of how much you care about your crew, how much you care about making sure that they are doing the best job that they can do as well.
We're really frontline focused at the end of the day, right? We want to support our staff. We want them to be heard. If they give feedback, we act on it. So yeah, that's super important to us. And I think that's why we have been able to grow so fast. So we built a really strong team that, returns year after year. And, I think at the end of the day, everyone's visions are aligned. And so we're just all rowing in the same direction.
Let's talk about this unique market that you're servicing. We're talking about people who are homeowners who this may be their vacation home. This may be they might be there on the weekends. They might be there once a year. Or they might be there every day. Who knows? But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a full mix for
it's
sure.
it's a whole mix. So how do you
Yeah.
balance the need for efficiency and automation while also providing this high touch personalized experience for your clients?
On the recurring revenue side, we've basically created what I call pods or mini business units. So we've created a structure where our AMs are a single point of contact to our clients once they get into our recurring revenue. If they're just in design build, right, that their product manager is their single point of contact at that point. But once they enter recurring revenue, our account managers are there for client relationships at the end of the day. We don't stretch our AMs, too thin. They're there to focus on, again, client relationships and quality. We then team them up with a production supervisor and then a list of crews that constantly work on the same properties underneath the same managers. So it's a very clear vertical as far as, client communication and making sure that things don't get lost in translation. We have held back a little bit on automation. We are, working on things as we speak to make some adjustments as we know we need to interject automation slightly. But for us, we don't want to lose our DNA of how we got, from $0 to 22 million, right? Like we want to make sure that we have that same DNA at 50 million. And that's client experience, a high client experience. Our clients value their time, right? And so our goal is to provide them with a high level of service that takes the least amount of their time to manage us, right? And that's value to them as well. So it's a very delicate process. We're going on 16 years in business and we're kind of going all the way back to step one, from when a lead comes in and auditing that portion of the business and making sure that we're giving the best client experience while still being as efficient as possible.
It's definitely that push and pull. So there are certain things that you definitely you find it easier to automate, but there's this personal touch that your clients expect and are here to experience. So I can
Yeah,
imagine it's a bit of a process to find that balance.
it is. And it takes a lot of like, again, we don't just offer landscape maintenance. We don't just offer landscape design, right? Like we offer a large suite of services. So it's, internally is probably where we're going to roll out a lot more automation, for operations internally versus external to our clients. For us, it's extremely important that, we have really strong cross collaboration between our departments so that we're providing a seamless experience to our clients.
So you talked about your single point of contact model and you're avoiding the phone tree. What are some of the processes that you've put in place to ensure your clients are experiencing that personalized touch?
I'm all about efficiencies. I'm a data person. My brother's also all about, client experience. So it makes a great balance, right? We decided that, a phone tree is not what we want at Stevens Landscaping. We want someone to be able to call, get the personal touch, talk to someone, right? But with that, we also want the client experience to be like a quick turnaround. We don't want someone to wait for a call back. We want to be able to act on things quickly and also make sure nothing, falls through the cracks. So we've implemented a internal ticketing system that we make sure that all communication is tracked. There's people that, hold others accountable, people that are managing that ticket system and ensuring that nothing falls through the cracks. I think that's, one of the, and again, I talked about this earlier, we're, refining that process slightly still, but, we have someone that answers a phone 24/7. We have an after hours line because we do offer property management for emergency services and stuff like that. So we really do have a good kind of, system and process around that, well documented, followed by all. And, we don't seem to have too many issues where things fall through the cracks or, someone calls back and say, I didn't get a call back, right? We set clear accountabilities, clear expectations to our employees of what we, expect to be done in what time frame.
You are clearly very deliberate about what you do and the growth of the company. But I would love to know, what is the biggest challenge you're currently facing? And are you using technology or data to address it?
I think the biggest challenge we're facing is scaling without losing our DNA, right? How did my brother and I, start this company? What were we doing well? And as we continue to scale, making sure our employees that we're bringing on, have that same DNA. Are we using data? Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely are. We're constantly looking at data to figure out capacity. When is something going to break, right? Before it breaks, though, so we're always modeling things to know, all right, at what point or what level do we need to add another account manager so that the DNA of giving that personal touch to our clients, right, doesn't break? And instead of waiting for feedback from clients that, they're getting a poor customer service from the AMs because the AM's overloaded, right? We know those points of when, hey, we need to pull the trigger on adding another AM and we need to split up those zones. And that goes through, there's so many different things, whether it's financial modeling or people modeling, our processes, modeling those out and figuring out different breakpoints. We really try to, be proactive versus reactive in these situations. And we're proactive with using existing data and modeling off that existing data. And we've been pretty on point to be able to figure out when those breakpoints are going to happen and get to them before they become a major issue. Have we absolutely had some major issues? Absolutely. If anyone tells you they haven't in business, they haven't ran their own business, right? It doesn't come easy. It takes, a lot of grit, determination, it takes failures, but learn from your mistakes for sure.
Your story is so inspiring. It's a movie, truly. Like starting out in high school and you're here today. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening or hear your story are thinking, how can I do something like that? So, what's your advice for someone who is entering into this profession, just starting out and wants to grow a business like yours?
I didn't bring this up earlier, but I actually didn't go to college. College wasn't for me by any means. I picked up a lot of my knowledge with surrounding myself with different entrepreneurs, people that have been through, starting up businesses, etc., and kind of created a nice little peer group. And they weren't landscaping businesses necessarily. It's just people that have been through startups. I think the other thing is, and I said this earlier as well, there's a lot of noise out there, right? There's a lot of ideas you can chase. There's a lot of different, directions you can go. I think really focusing, and honing in on, certain portions of the business when you start is what's important, right? You win at what you focus on. Implement software early. Don't try to operate without software. We made the mistake, you know, our first 3 to 4 years, didn't have any software at all. Everything was up here and it was challenging. It was challenging, right? Now I can, leave 7, 10, 12, 14 days. And I know that my team has everything covered. And if I need to get a quick data or look at something, I can get online, look at that data on the software. And it's definitely way easier to implement software at the beginning of the business than at the $1 million mark or $3 million mark or so on and so forth, for sure. And then I would say, don't be afraid to fail. I have failed many times. I have made many mistakes for sure. But one thing I will say is learn from your mistakes, right? And I would say the other thing is that, success doesn't come without grit. Like you need to put your head down. You need to fight through the hard times and you need to challenge yourself. We say never stop learning, grit. Like those are two of our key core values that like we live by day in and day out.
Mark, that's great advice. That is great advice. I want to thank you for coming on to Toolbox for the Trades. This was a great conversation, and I know our audience is going to enjoy. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Very much appreciated.